Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell's Speech, Lindell TV, and on X, to be followed by America's Mayor Live on X. Today, I think we'll begin on a positive note because day by day, I shouldn't say little by little because the president has done nothing little, but of course it takes time. So as time progresses, Trump time progresses, which is quite a bit faster than anybody else's time, correct? What we have is just a progression of things happening. Some of them are a fait accompli. Some are in action. Some are stalled by courts. But we're moving on so many fronts that we're definitely making progress on winning the big war, which is to restore constitutional government in the United States. So I want to show you the results of, in part, the summary of that took place 2 nights ago by the president. And his speech, I would say, was divided into big picture, substance, accomplishments, things to be done, and then poetry, the greatness of America, how our future is brighter than our past, how we've always met challenges as big or bigger than this, how we're the nation and the people who can overcome it. These are things we haven't heard in a while because we were in a massive Carter malaise, exceeded tremendously by the Biden incompetence of monumental proportions. So the difficulty is taking you out of that. It's not so hard to take you out of it in terms of spirit, meaning by talking about it and then by taking actions quickly, you can turn the spirit around. The substantive accomplishments, some are going to be delayed. There may be a few that don't happen. I remember that with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan accomplished 2 of his 3 biggest goals, and it was enough to be one of the greatest presidents of the United States. Certainly one of the greatest liberators as a president in the United States. Ronald Reagan liberated Eastern Europe. Lincoln liberated the United States. Roosevelt eliminated a good deal of Europe, of Western Europe. Beyond that, there aren't too many liberators in our history. Trump may well be a liberator. Got real close with the Middle East with the Abraham Accords. He's working real hard for peace in Ukraine and in the Middle East. And he's got an approach to what has got to be accomplished that I've only seen 2 other American presidents in the nuclear era have. He has a profound understanding, a mixture of fear, respect, and courage for our nuclear capability and the nuclear capability of our enemies. John Kennedy had that, and Ronald Reagan had that. Most of the others, I think, weren't big enough to encompass that wisdom. They were big enough to accomplish other things, but they were not big enough to accomplish, or they certainly weren't big enough to express it well. So it might be best if we begin with these poll results. They come from 2 pathologically negative Trump networks. 90 to 95% of what they put on is negative to Trump. And the results, which should be on the board, but I can't see, are overwhelmingly, I think it's 76 to 23 in one. That might be CBS. And then it's like 64 to much less, and that might be on CNN. But unfortunately, it wasn't on. Hopefully you can see it. It was put on a board in a way that I cannot see it. Very small, very tiny. This could be an attempt by the staff to give me a eyeglass test. And I haven't had my eyes checked in about a year and a half. So it is possible this was done for my good. But in any event, the polls came out about 76% on the CBS poll, 64% or something like that on the CNN poll, that it was a very presidential, very good speech. The negative numbers were tiny. Given the reaction of Maddow, the mad cow, and given the reaction of that other idiot who used to be Republican, Nicole Wallace, which was, I would say, positively disgusting. Totally unable to, in any way, even something moderate, like, well, that wasn't really great, but it wasn't as worse, something like that. Now, the simple fact is, judged by any kind of objective standards, it was clearly one of the best State of the Union speeches ever given in modern times. It brilliantly summarized what's wrong with us. It, of course, beautifully pointed out the accomplishments without excessive boasting. Nothing to boast about. The accomplishments speak for themselves. But we know that sometimes the president, who has the internal nature of a great salesman on a high level, and his ability to sell grand buildings and grand designs has switched to, and it doesn't always happen, his ability to sell big ideas, important ideas, like how do we get through the nuclear age and survive and dominate. Dominate, maybe not. Lead is the word that I would use, which is where we've been, but we're challenged now by China. We'll hear more about that tonight, because there's a lot of stuff coming out of China, which, because so much is going on with Russia in the Middle East, we're not paying attention to. I recommend, this is not an advertisement, but I recommend keeping track of the Epoch Times if you want to know what's going on in China. They have the best sources. Very important to read them, because sometimes you find out a week later. And now I'm not talking about here things that are hidden. I mean, you'll find out a week later, even in the conservative publication. You may never find out in the communist publications, because they protect China. Aggressive. The New York Times might as well be a Chinese newspaper. They completely protect China and take their point of view in almost every situation. And when they don't, they make it very euphemistic. They lower it to something you're not going to really get upset about. And then they make us the bad guys. Now, Trump has now, I guess, during the evening, right, that was devoted to accomplishments, the economy and how he was going to fix it, the border, a great deal on the border, both what has been done, which is astounding, and what has to be done and how it will be done. And then foreign policy on the two main issues on foreign policy right now being the Middle East and Ukraine. But it also was interspersed with very, very beautiful interruptions designed to unify us as Americans and to give us a sense of the incredible, indomitable spirit of the human being. And people of all different backgrounds, and people very, very rich, and people very, very poor, and people of different groups were selected to show that, which is the right way to teach our citizens to dispel their prejudices, not to some kind of regimented government formula that ends up becoming reverse prejudice, which is what Democrats do. Here's the thing that was astounding from the very, very beginning. The Democrats, I guess, decided they were going to sit during all of the president's speech, thinking they were hurting him in some way? Like, people really care if they stand, or how about the people that voted against them, which is more than the people that voted for them? How do you think they felt when their choice for president, after some of whom probably love him and have chosen him a long time ago, but given the nature of the election and the surprising result, and the reason you get to call this election a landslide is because it's not just a pure numbers. It certainly was a electoral college landslide. You get to call it a landslide because they were predicting either a very close election or a loss. So this is completely, again, completely contrary to what the mainstream media predicted. So the people who voted for him voted for him against what was presented as the thing to do, as the establishment acceptable thing to do. It's similar to, you can't say girl. You have to say, I don't know actually what you have to say for girl. Any woman that was older than being a girl that I called a girl, I don't know, maybe I know the wrong ones, was complimented. Because occasionally I would fall into the trap of the word control commissar, and you can't call women girls. And I'd say, you're a very nice girl. And then I'm sorry, I know you're not supposed to say that. She said, my God, Mayor, that's, thank you. Do I really look that young? I said, well, you actually are quite, well, I better not say you're pretty. Oh God, I mean, if I said you were pretty, in fact, for a period of time during the Biden era, they were actually, I think they actually took my AOL account to see if I call girls pretty, not to spy on Trump. They were checking my language. It was the commissar of dictated language that took it. And they probably have all kinds of examples of just how horrible I am calling women. Oh, ma'am, too. I've actually had women get upset with me when I say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I don't know. I learned that. I don't know where I learned that. I actually think that comes out of the mill. I learned that, believe it or not, I think in the ROTC or maybe on the sports teams I played on. I always thought it was a very respectful way. And then I've had women get angry at me that it's misogynistic, whatever that means. Could you look that up, Ted, and let us know before the end of the show?
Man, all these new words.
I like to expand everybody's vocabulary, including mine. Well, the xenophobic was the one before. So if you say ma'am, it's either misogynistic or they believe.
Ageist. You're aging them.
No, I had another woman saying, that shows you only like Southern women.
Oh, yes. It's a Southern term.
I said, everybody on my block in Brooklyn used to say, ma'am, I'm sorry. It's also some kind of an Italian Brooklyn term, jackass.
Okay.
Should I read the definition from misogynistic?
No, I'm only kidding. I think we know it. It means you hate women, right? Yeah, right. Well, I can tell you.
I can tell the mayor does not hate women.
I can tell you that's not the case. I have any number of examples of this.
Funny to hear this.
Yeah, one time, never mind. I'm not going to tell you that story. It's probably too controversial. But I hate to pick one because the presentation, to me, the one that probably meant the most, because Ted and I were deeply involved in this, was the presentation regarding Lincoln Riley. And because we made, Ted and I did a very big deal. The first minute, the moron in the White House for the prior 4 years called her Lincoln Riley. I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, do they underestimate you, babes? Sorry, I said babes. That would get me a lot. Not with Marjorie, but with the word police. So it was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant that Marjorie Taylor Greene, on the way into the State of the Union speech, gave him a piece of paper, and she said, basically, she dared him, like he's back fighting with corn pop. She said, I dare you to say her name. You haven't said her name. And she had been dead for a while at this point. And she was one of the people that died because of his incompetent open border policy. She's killed by a Venezuelan only 4 months in the country, 5 months in the country. Oh, she was killed by the New York sanctuary city policies too, because he got to choose a city he wanted to go to. He chose Athens, Georgia, and from the moment he got there, he started prowling around looking for girls to rape, because he was one of the many perverted criminals that Donald Trump had told us were being released by Maduro, that Biden, Mayorkas, and the others who should be in prison for this lied about. Well, Biden gets somewhere near the middle of his speech and looking very, very proud of himself. So if he points out that he is going to mention her name, and he says, and we something like, we feel very sorry, or we are deeply hurt, or something about the death of not Laken O'Reilly, but Lincoln O'Reilly. So with all of that, he can't get the name right of the girl who was raped and murdered because of his policy, after ignoring her for days and weeks and weeks. You know how that broke the heart of her mother? Broke the heart of her mother so that she became a devoted Trump supporter. I think she would have been, even if Trump hadn't been extraordinarily nice to her. And actually, you would say, oh, he did it for political reasons. I know the man. The reason she loves him so much is she knows it's not true. She knows he really feels it. I know he really feels it. You don't do it as much as he does it if you don't really feel it. Every time Biden did it, it looked like it was forced on this perverted, extremely mentally disturbed individual who has no human empathy, none. Wouldn't have done to his son what he did if he had human empathy. I know that's hard to say, but boy, you got to be clear-eyed if you want to evaluate leadership, and I'm pretty good at it. I don't know if we have I could give you 10 examples of how the man doesn't have human empathy, but I'm going to give you one because I had to participate as the mayor and other positions in government, third ranking in the Justice Department. I went to, as you know, many, many funerals long before September 11, funerals for people who died in the federal service, people who were, a man who was killed in a prison, the Bureau of Prisons, drug enforcement agents, police officers. And of course, there's a certain amount of decorum in the way that you act. And of course, they get long, and sometimes maybe your mind wanders, but you work really, really hard to keep yourself focused, because you know it's an insult not to. And you know it could, if observed, hurt people who already hurt. You're there to ease their pain. You sure as hell don't want to be the person who made their pain worse. I don't know if there is a better definition of a human being or a non-human being than someone who understands what I just said. The individual in the White House, and many, many Democrats who are so just opportunistically concerned about everything, have nothing like this. So I'm going to show you a singular moment of this. Then we're going to talk about how it has affected the entire Democrat Party, and should be another reason why the party of slavery dissolves and becomes another party. Let's take a look at Biden now going to, I imagine this was Andrews joint base, Andrews outside of Washington. He's there on a very, very sad, tragic, one of the worst occasions in American history caused by him. Now, he may not know that because he's so deluded, and the first stepmother surely did. But there he is, 13 people killed only because of a policy that was was irrational and close to insane, hopefully giving the families a sense that he empathized with them. The sense that he gave was he won't be there. He came late. The families had to wait for the bodies to be taken off the plane. Disgraceful, when he can arrange his schedule any way he wants. When he got there, he didn't know their names, hardly greeted them, and then went off and stood with his wife, and then indicated he wanted to get the hell out of there by looking at his watch continuously. Now, it is true that Little Red Riding Hood lied about this later on and said he never looked at his watch. But then Little Red Riding Hood, who now is a big shot at CNN because she proved herself to be such a good pathological liar, he started looking at his wristwatch a number of times. There he goes again, indicating, I got something better to do, and I hope this is getting over. Look.
Like meeting with an oligarch.
Yeah, I got to go collect money from Zelensky. Well, of course, this wasn't noted by the press. It was noted by the families. The reactions were dramatic. Yes, Ted.
I'm just gonna look at his watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Dramatic. That is significantly more important than when, like, George Bush the first, or George Bush the elder, maybe we should say, looked at his watch during a debate, and it ruined him. Now, you would look at the watch debate to see how much more time you had, right? By the time I got to debate, every debate coach made you keep your watch in the robing room or the dressing room, so you didn't make the mistake of looking at it. That was a horrible thing to do. But of course, it was part of a context of his ignoring them, which he did completely. Well, Trump made up for delayed action in that situation just now, as he is constantly making up for what this guy has done. And what he did was arrest, or made sure that within how many days, 40 days in office, he did what Biden was never able to do, which is arrest a killer, arrest the guy who killed those 13 people. And he went about it by also having a joint telephone conference with all 13 family members, and shared the information, the details. They, of course, cried. He may have, I don't know. This could have been done years ago. We knew who he was. We knew where he was. We never sent the FBI to go get him. It was real simple. Kash Patel took over, sent the FBI. They arrested him and brought him back. Now, you want to tell me this is when we discovered him? Or would you like to believe what I know to be true? He never arrested him because he didn't want the story repeated. Politics supreme. Screw your kid. Don't recognize your granddaughter because it'll politically hurt you. Break her heart and possibly give her issues for the rest of her life. Lie about everything, including detailed knowledge of your son's business activities, and lie about the fact that your son was giving you half of his salary for 30 years. I mean, by the way, by the time you're finished with Biden and his ability to rationalize everything in favor of politics, you don't have a human being left. The human being is gone. Human being is sacrificed on the altar of political expediency or his own pleasure, which is called psychotic narcissism. And now we have a president who loves and cares and worries about other people. And it comes from that. And that's why you don't find scores of people condemning him like, oh, when he called me, he tried to get off the phone too fast, or he looks at his watch, or he doesn't really seem to. He really seems to, because, gee, we got a real person in the White House. It's been a while. We'll be back in a minute.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Tired of volatile stocks and tiny dividend yields? Here's something different. Imagine collecting steady monthly income from America's richest oil fields without owning a single oil stock. While everyone else stresses about the market, you could be earning passive royalty income month after month. This unique investment has nothing to do with drilling, exploration, or operations. You simply collect your share of the profits when oil companies pump oil. The Oxford Club's Mark Lichtenfeld has found what he calls the perfect income investment, a unique oil royalty opportunity that's still flying under Wall Street's radar.
20 seconds.
You can get started with just $25. Head to rudyoilboom.com now to discover more. That's rudyoilboom.com. Stop worrying about the market and start collecting oil royalty checks instead. Giuliani, and I'm back with the Rudy Giuliani Show. And we have with us our Washington White House correspondent, the incomparable and terrific Cara Castronuova. Cara?
Hey, Rudy. Hey, Mr. Mayor. How are you? I'm
Good.
great.
So what's going on today in the swamp?
A lot of things are going on. Some positive things. Today, President Trump signed a proclamation declaring March 2025 Irish American Heritage Month, as well as Women's History Month. So a lot of people were happy about that. As you know, there's many Irish American citizens and people in this country that have done so much, and he really just wanted to honor them with that. And also so many women as well that have done so much for this country. So today he signed those proclamations, and there's other interesting things going on, which that is wonderful. I agree. And it's people are happy about that one, especially I think the women's history because of everything going on with President Trump standing up for women, especially in sports and female only spaces. He's done more for women than really any president, in my opinion, just really overturning what Biden did, which is very anti-women. And Irish Americans, especially in New York that I spoke to, were very honored that he made March 2025 Irish American Heritage Month. So, and then there's another one. I think you're going to like this one. I want to read this one to you. This
I like that one
you
a
will
lot,
find,
by the way.
and this might be.
Month. You know, I feel growing up in New York and going to Catholic schools, I'm ethnically Italian, but educated as Irish. Right? All my nuns were Irish. That's why I'm a big supporter of Notre Dame, because if Notre Dame didn't win, the nuns were very nasty. And I know my friends were Irish, Jewish, and Italian.
Of
so
course,
I grew up,
those are the three things.
I feel like I'm
in
all
Long
three
Island.
of those things, and I
Right.
love the St. Patrick's Parade, and I've got an assortment of green ties. If I knew you were going to report this today, I would have worn one of my green ties. But
well, March is that. Well, yeah, this is the whole
17th.
month, so you could wear a green. You could wear a green
March
tie. and obviously
17th.
What St. Patrick's Day? Yes.
That's great. And of course, I think the Irish go back to the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, which they fought as paid conscripts. And then, of course, what they've contributed. You got to say the New York City Police Department and Fire Department is a tradition of Irish courage, Irish faith, Irish heroism. And we've all adopted it that came after them, the Hispanics, the Italians, the Jewish people who all became cops. They're all part of that tradition. So it was an absolutely significant thing to do.
And there's another one that I thought would be significant, which was, this is a good one, and I don't want to mess this one up because I know it's important too, but the law firm, I want to make sure I get this right, Perkins Coie, are you familiar with them? Perkins Coie. I don't know if you heard this one, but there was an executive order today addressing risks from Perkins Coie, the law firm, and basically removing all the security clearances that members of this law firm have, as well as directing the heads of agencies to not hire any people that work for this law firm. And as you probably know, that this is the law firm that was representing Hillary Clinton. According to this executive order, notably in 2016, when representing failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, Perkins Co. hired Fusion GPS, which then manufactured a false dossier designed to steal an election. This egregious activity is part of a pattern. Perkins Co. has worked with activist donors, including George Soros, obviously, to do his dirty work. So the president today is going to obviously be fighting against this law firm and is instructing everybody to basically remove the security and clearances. And he's directing the, obviously Tulsi Gabbard and others that this is very important to save America.
They should also be thoroughly disbarred as a law firm. And I'll explain that a little later on. But this was a very significant one. It showed that he's trying to reverse lawfare,
right?
Reverse the use of the courts for the political good of the Democrat Party, and without any regard to the lives, the rights, and the safety of anyone that disagrees with them, particularly Republicans. And it's part of what you covered so heavily, J6. It's part of what happened to me, Navarro, Bannon, and then scores of other people. It's still happening. They're still suing us. Believe it or not, the president and I are still under indictment in Georgia. Most of the cases have been thrown out. The prosecutor has turned out to be the only guilty person in the courtroom, and the one in Arizona is still hanging on. Although the judge in Arizona told the state, if you don't give me some reasons to keep this case, I'm going to throw it out because it looks like a political persecution. So that sounds like it's on its last legs in Arizona. So this was very significant. What's the any continued reaction to the speech and the extraordinary activities of what is that, like a pre-kindergarten school the Democrats conduct in? They look like a bunch of bad kids in a school that should have been. Well, they should have been disciplined by a nun or something.
Right. I saw also Senator Fetterman came out today basically saying that his party, he was embarrassed by the way that they were acting. I mean, sometimes Senator Fetterman is normal and sometimes he's not in the way that he votes, but he did say that he disapproved of their behavior, obviously, which was, like you said, consistent with that of a kindergarten class. I think that's a story, how good that speech was and how many Americans approved. I think it was 71 to 79% of Americans approved, depending on the poll, is something the mainstream media is immediately trying to forget. So that was the news cycle yesterday. Here at the White House, that's something that the media is just trying to forget about and move on and talk about tariffs and everything else and how they feel it's going to harm the economy when obviously it's going to eventually have the opposite effect. But yes, that speech is something that they've sort of swept under the rug, as you could imagine.
Well, we'll keep checking in with you, Cara. Thank you very much for your excellent analysis. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rudy. I appreciate you.
We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. You all know I stand by the truth. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Tired of volatile stocks and tiny dividend yields? Here's something different. Imagine collecting steady monthly income from America's richest oil fields without owning a single oil stock. While everyone else stresses about the market, you could be earning passive royalty income month after month This unique investment has nothing to do with drilling, exploration, or operations. You simply collect your share of the profits when oil companies pump oil. The Oxford Club's Mark Lichtenfeld has found what he calls the perfect income investment, a unique oil royalty opportunity
30 seconds.
that's still flying under Wall Street's radar. And you can get started with just $25. Head to rudyoilboom.com now to discover more. That's rudyoilboom.com. Stop worrying about the market and start collecting oil royalty checks instead. Well, I think that it is appropriate to spend a little more time on the Democrat reaction because the main media covers it up, doesn't really go into the details of it. And it is quite significant because it isn't isolated. It's not as if this is the only thing they have done that indicates that they have no regard for you, the American people, and they're serving other masters. I mean, many of them may be serving the masters of their own advancement. Some of them, unfortunately, too many of them are in it for money, and we find that out when they retire. And these congressmen that come from very poor districts and were very poor are worth 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars and more. Almost impossible unless they won the lottery. More likely it happened because they sold their district out. Also witnessed by the fact that their districts are in the same or worse condition when they leave office than the 30 years earlier when they came into office. Certainly true of the districts in New York, and it was my personal experience with the crooked Democrat congressman in New York. They're in it for the money and have no regard for the people. They vote consistently against charter schools. They vote consistently against choice in education. They vote consistently against vouchers. And their community, 70%, 75% support them.
Restream's
and
all
then
done
they play political brainwashing in order to continue to get their vote, even though they're voting against their wishes about probably one of the most important subjects, the future of their children. So the conduct is much deeper than the conduct. If this were like a momentary dispute with a president in which they acted stupid, it'd be one thing. This is a concerted effort to undermine you, the American people. He's not just Donald Trump. He's the president of the United States, which indicates that a substantial portion of Americans in good faith support him. Now, it would have been maybe an accidental insult if they all sat there or booed him or interrupted. But this follows 8 years of insults of the worst kind that shows they hate their fellow Americans. We're deplorables. All we think about is guns and God. Like there's something wrong with thinking about God, Obama. What is it? The communist background that you have that makes you uncomfortable that we think about God and we're bad people because we think about God? I mean, that was a slip that immediately told me the man's a Marxist. And all the stories dismissed as conspiracy theory that he was trained by communists is absolutely true. He was. Only a communist would come up with that concept and get so concerned about God, because Karl Marx was so concerned about God. And every communist is excessively trained on how dangerous the concept of God can be. To the main thing that has to happen to make a good communist has to think there is no God. And if there is a God, he's smarter than God. And he associates more with Satan. Read Marx. Marx was a Satanist. So what you saw is a reflection of a party that hasn't just gone off the rails. It's a party that's become decidedly anti-American. They completely reject and try to trash our founding fathers: free speech, freedom of religion, the right to possess a firearm. How about the right to due process? What could you call the treatment of Donald Trump, of me, of Navarro, of Bannon, and of all the J6 people, and hundreds of Trump supporters who were pursued on completely contrived charges? And the money they were talking about before that was passed around to the Perkins Coie law firm, that was money to fix the election. Whether there's money, and the law firm acted as a money laundering device. That's the thing they tried to prosecute Trump for. They said that Trump falsely described the payment as a legal fee. Well, it was a legal fee. It was a legal fee to pay someone for a non-disclosure agreement, but it went through a lawyer. Well, in her case, the money that went to pay Perkins Coie was a payment to Steele to deliberately create a false set of scurrilous charges against Donald Trump Jr., and anybody else they could find. They also directed $21 million to develop false stories about me and several others through the USAID, which I hear these stupid Republicans say does some good. When you do so much bad, the doing good can be done by another agencies, my fellow Republicans. The agency is tainted. It is known all over the world as a left-wing advocacy group. For example, in Africa, which has a growing Catholic population, they can't tell the difference between USAID and the people who aggressively support abortions. How do you think that goes down with converted Catholics, Black converted Catholics? They're wondering if America is communistic. The USAID is close to being a traitorous organization. It is certainly a corrupt organization. And if they do some good things, then get rid of it, reform it, and let's focus on the good things that it does. Just like the Democrat Party. Get rid of it, reform it, and focus on being an American political party rather than some Ivy League and whatever established Marxist institution, because you've lost just about every principle of American democracy. Among those is respecting your fellow citizens. You have no respect for us. You hate us. You try to not only oppose us, you try to take our jobs away. You try to take our children away. You try to take our homes away. You took all my property away. All of it. I got it back. But boy, I only got it back after spending millions. You're terrible people. Only terrible people did what you did on a Wednesday night. A Tuesday night, rather. You've got to be a really bad person. So let's look at this situation with DJ Daniels, the 13-year-old boy who suffered from cancer. Hopefully has beaten that situation. Always wanted to be a police officer. Had been made a local police officer because of the kindness of policemen, which way overwhelms any problems police officers have, and their love of children. And now the president found out about him, and the president was going to honor him and his father. And then the president had a surprise for him. He made him an honorary or a Secret Service agent, gave him the badge, and the kid just broke down. And I don't know if we have this clip because it's sort of ignored, but when the young man was told, another young man was told he's getting into, here, let's watch this and then we'll do the other part.
He loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
You know the answer. You're too young to know what you're doing, and you're too scared to do it.
But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times.
It then went on to have DJ shortly thereafter made a Secret Service agent. Don't think the president even used the word honorary for Secret Service. So we may see DJ show up protecting the president. He'd actually be bigger than some of the people that were Butler, and I think probably maybe more competent. But then a little later on, the president honored a young man who wanted to get into West Point and was told there that his appointment had been approved. And the young man, of course, had tears in his eyes. The mother had tears in his eyes. I don't know exactly how far away TJ was sitting up in the balcony, but TJ walked over to the guy. I don't think anybody told him to do it. It didn't look that way. It looked like he just did it on his own. This kid's got it, boy. Goes over on his own, taps the guy on the shoulder. The guy turns around, big smile on his face, and they go like this. A beautiful moment. Now, I'm sorry. If you don't get up to clap for that, you're not a human being. What, because your leader told you can't be a human being? In order to be a Democrat politician, you have to give away your humanity? And your free will, absolutely. Well, you do. You do. You want to be a member of Congress in the Democrat Party, just give away your conscience, your free will, your common sense. I mean, does it make common sense to vote against a bill that says that men should not be allowed to participate in women's sports? Now, I am convinced that as many Democrats, which is about 60% that disagree with that nationally, 60% of those Congress members disagree with it, probably more, because they may be better educated than their constituency and actually don't buy the completely distorted, perverted, Marxist, contrived confusion they're trying to create on gender. Just read about Marx and how morality has to be destroyed. Conventional morality is the product of the oppressor in order to destroy the oppressed. Oh, things like marriage, things like faithful marriage, things like, two genders, male, female, things like the family, things like the children being the responsibility of the family. This is a big point of Marxism and a big point of the Democrat Party, making children the property of the state. Right now, they're the property of the teachers union, which is a communist organized party. So we are in the midst of what has been, and there's the young man, and there you see, oh gosh, you just missed it. There's the young man who got TJ's a bit out of the shot, but there he is, TJ. Now, as far as I could tell, because you didn't see the earlier part of that, I don't see his father with him. I don't see anybody bringing him over there. There may have been that. There may have been that he may have been in the company of that Secret Service agent at the time, because he had just been made a secret, and that's the Secret Service agent that was with Trump at Butler, the guy that you see right next to him, the guy who was appropriately sized to protect him, and the guy who did put his body in front of him. He was made the head of the Secret Service. I thought that Carolyn Levitt described it best, saying the behavior of Democrats last night was completely disgraceful and demonstrated how severely out of touch they are with the American people. No doubt about it. I mean, they're not insulting just Donald Trump doesn't really give a damn what they do unless they want to cooperate and try to make America great. But if they're going to obstruct, I mean, you notice he wasn't even fazed by them. I think they did it because they thought they were going to derail his speech. It was as if he was in a regular hospital, and the other side of the aisle with a mentally disturbed. And don't pay too much of attention because you don't want to insult them. So they're mentally disturbed. He's made a couple of remarks about him. And when they interfered with free speech by yelling and screaming, he had to be removed. But other than that, the less said about them, the better. And when I talked to the president, I can tell you that for sure was his attitude. Basically, if your enemy is destroying himself, shut your mouth and watch them do it. And they are destroying themselves. They couldn't even, I'll give you another example. They couldn't even clap for a girl who got her head smashed in by a man on the volleyball court. Of course, that only happened because of their policies. If we didn't have crazy, wacko, leftist, communist, immoral Democrats, we would have had that guy would not have been participating in the volleyball game, and that young girl would lead a normal life. Politics is sometimes presented as a sport, sometimes presented as a game. Politics is deadly serious. People live or die when we have incompetent politicians. People live if they have good ones, they die if they don't. People die if they have politicians who are crooked, because generally that's selling out to things that are bad for people. Joe Biden is the best example of an American politician who, because of his various infirmities, led to the death of hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions if you count Ukraine. And how can you not count Ukraine? There's no doubt if he weren't president and Trump were president, it wouldn't have been invaded. Caroline also said last night was a very clarifying moment for our country. If you couldn't figure out that this political party is dead and should be buried, you don't have much of a brain. And you had to feel just how bad are they when they make a compact that they're not going to stand for Trump. Okay, I don't know how many of them there were there. The ones I see in the picture look like a bunch of freaks, but they're not all freaks. There are some. So you make a compact, we're not going to stand for Trump and give him respect. But then do you have any independent judgment? You see a young boy who suffered from cancer. This is going to be the highest moment of his life. Maybe not. Maybe not. Who knows what this kid will accomplish? But it could be a big moment in his life. He can remember this forever. And what he can remember is that half the Congress sat down on him. You want to do that to that kid? Well, you are a son of a bitch. I don't care about politics. Just because the half-wit from New York, because that guy has got he's got half a brain. Because the half-wit from New York tells you you should do it as a political strategy. You don't say, screw you. I'm my own man. I'm my own woman. What about the girl whose brain was impaired? Huh? How about the girl who was on her way to being an Olympic athlete with great credits, and then all of a sudden the guy comes in and he wins the race in a record time that no woman has ever reached and could possibly reach in history? How about the guy rescued from Russia? What a story that was. Well, that one might have been hard for them, because that's another one Biden should have done. That he didn't, maybe on purpose, because he didn't want the political feedback, maybe because he was so damn incompetent. Or also maybe because he couldn't talk to Putin. I mean, during the height of the Cold War, Kennedy talked to Khrushchev. During the height of the Cold War, Reagan talked to Gorbachev. That's how we solved it, damn it. The American presidents did not talk to these people. They went the last mile to try to avoid war, not egging it on, creating it, and then not supporting it, which is what he did to Ukraine. Ukrainian people should hate Joe Biden, but they don't, because the Ukrainian government, their government, has been tied in corruptly with the Democratic Party since at least the beginning of the Obama administration. And in the fullness of time, that's all going to come out, and it's all been hidden by the left-wing press and even by members of Congress, including Republicans. So the president promised to get Mr. Fogel released to his mother right before he was almost killed at Butler, Pennsylvania. That's a heck of a story. Mr. Fogel is now released. Biden had 5 years to do that, couldn't do it. I mean, it's just symbolic of all the things that he's done. He had years to arrest the guy who was responsible for killing 13 soldiers at Kabul. He got arrested only under Trump because the FBI finally was sent there. If they would send the FBI to Ukraine, I would think they could show that Zelensky is holding on to files that would put any number of people in Washington in jail, as well as any number of people in his own government. This creating of Zelensky as some kind of legitimate anything. The guy is a creature of one of the most crooked people in Ukraine, and he acts as such. So, a lot coming out quick and fast. You don't hear it anywhere else but here. So come back tomorrow at 7. We'll be on X at 8. God bless America.